The world is in a state of flux. The familiar geopolitical order is being reshaped by a powerful force: climate change. No longer a distant threat, climate change is a here and now reality. It's a threat multiplier, exacerbating existing tensions and creating new ones. From the halls of power to the dinner tables of ordinary citizens, climate change is redefining the rules of the game. Climate change is altering the global landscape. Melting glaciers, rising sea levels, and extreme weather events are no longer just environmental concerns. They are national security threats. They are economic disruptors. They are humanitarian crises in the making. The world is waking up to the fact that climate change is not just an environmental issue. It is a geopolitical force of the first order. As the planet warms, competition for dwindling resources will intensify. Water scarcity will fuel conflicts. Crop failures will lead to food shortages and mass displacement. Coastal cities will face inundation. The struggle for survival in a climate-changed world will reshape alliances, ignite conflicts, and force us to rethink the very nature of global security. The old geopolitical maps are being redrawn. The Arctic, once an icy backwater, is emerging as a new frontier for resource extraction and strategic competition. Small island nations on the front lines of sea level rise are becoming vocal advocates for climate action. The world is witnessing the birth of a new geopolitical order, one shaped by the realities of a warming planet. The US and China, the world's two largest economies and emitters of greenhouse gases, are locked in a geopolitical rivalry that will shape the 21st century. Climate change adds a new layer of complexity to this already fraught relationship. Both countries recognize the existential threat posed by climate change, but their competing interests often hinder cooperation. The US, historically the world's largest emitter, has seen its leadership role on climate change wane in recent years. Domestic political polarization and a focus on economic competitiveness have hampered its ability to enact ambitious climate policies. The withdrawal from the Paris Agreement under the previous administration signaled a retreat from global climate leadership, though efforts are underway to re-engage. China, now the world's largest emitter, has positioned itself as a leader in renewable energy and green technologies. Driven by concerns about energy security, air pollution, and economic opportunity, China has invested heavily in solar and wind power, electric vehicles, and energy efficiency. However, its continued reliance on coal and its growing global footprint raise questions about its commitment to a low-carbon future. The US-China rivalry has spilled over into the realm of clean energy technology. Both countries see the transition to a clean energy economy as not just an environmental necessity, but also an economic opportunity. This has led to competition for markets, resources, and technological dominance, creating both challenges and opportunities for global climate action. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has sent shockwaves through the global energy system, exposing Europe's dependence on Russian fossil fuels and accelerating the shift towards renewable energy sources. The crisis has become a catalyst for a fundamental rethinking of energy security and climate policy. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has weaponized energy, using its vast reserves of natural gas as leverage against European nations. This has highlighted the geopolitical vulnerabilities of relying on fossil fuels from authoritarian regimes and has strengthened the resolve of many European countries to accelerate the transition to renewable energy. The European Union has responded with plans to rapidly reduce its dependence on Russian gas, setting ambitious targets for renewable energy deployment and energy efficiency improvements. The crisis has also spurred investments in clean energy technologies and infrastructure, as countries seek to enhance their energy independence and reduce their carbon footprint. The Ukraine conflict underscores the interconnectedness of energy security, climate change, and geopolitics. It has highlighted the risks of relying on fossil fuels from volatile regions and has accelerated the transition to a more sustainable and secure energy future. The crisis has also demonstrated the potential for international cooperation in response to shared threats. As the planet warms and the impacts of climate change intensify, competition for essential resources like water, food and land will escalate, creating new geopolitical fault lines and exacerbating existing tensions. The struggle for survival in a climate-changed world will reshape alliances, ignite conflicts, and force us to rethink the very nature of global security. Water scarcity, already a pressing issue in many parts of the world, will be amplified by climate change. Droughts will become more frequent and severe, shrinking rivers and aquifers. This will lead to increased competition for water resources, potentially sparking conflicts between nations, regions, and communities. Rising temperatures and changes in precipitation patterns will also affect agricultural yields, putting global food security at risk. Crop failures and livestock losses will become more common, leading to food shortages, price spikes, and social unrest. The interconnected nature of the global food system means that climate-related shocks in one region can have ripple effects across the world. Climate change will also displace millions of people, both within and across borders. Rising sea levels will inundate coastal communities, while extreme weather events like floods, droughts, and heat waves will render vast areas uninhabitable. This mass displacement will strain resources, inflame tensions, and create new challenges for global governance. Section 5. When hunger becomes a weapon. Food security in a warming world. Climate change is not just an environmental threat, it's a threat multiplier that can turn food insecurity into a weapon, exacerbating existing conflicts and creating new ones. The weaponization of food, as seen in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, highlights the fragility of the global food system and the urgent need for climate-resilient agriculture and international cooperation. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has disrupted global grain supplies, as both countries are major exporters of wheat, corn, and sunflower oil. The conflict has led to blockades of Ukrainian ports, sanctions on Russia, and soaring food prices, pushing millions of people in vulnerable countries closer to famine. This crisis underscores how climate change, combined with geopolitical instability, can weaponize food. As extreme weather events become more frequent and intense, they will further disrupt agricultural production, creating opportunities for states and non-state actors to exploit food shortages for political and economic gain. To counter this threat, the international community must prioritize climate-resilient agriculture, invest in early warning systems for food security, and strengthen global governance mechanisms to prevent the manipulation of food supplies. Failure to act will have devastating consequences, particularly for the most vulnerable populations already struggling with hunger and malnutrition. Section 6. From Promises to Action: The Uncertain Future of Climate Goals. The international community has made significant strides in recent years in setting ambitious climate goals, but translating these commitments into concrete actions remains a formidable challenge. The gap between ambition and implementation is widening, and the window of opportunity to avert the worst impacts of climate change is rapidly closing. The landmark Paris Agreement, adopted in 2015, aims to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius. However, current national pledges for emission reductions are insufficient to meet these targets. The world is on track for a temperature rise of 2.5 to 2.9 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, a level of warming that would have catastrophic consequences. The recent COP27 climate summit in Egypt yielded some progress, particularly on the issue of loss and damage finance for developing countries. However, the summit fell short of expectations in terms of strengthening emission reduction targets and phasing out fossil fuels. The geopolitical tensions exacerbated by the war in Ukraine cast a long shadow over the negotiations, hindering international cooperation. The road ahead is fraught with challenges. The world faces a narrowing window of opportunity to avert the worst impacts of climate change. Bridging the gap between ambition and implementation will require political will, technological innovation, and financial resources on an unprecedented scale. The future of the planet hangs in the balance. Section 7. The Price of Inaction: Navigating the Risks of a Warming World. The consequences of inaction on climate change are far-reaching and potentially catastrophic. As the planet warms, the risks to human societies and ecosystems will multiply, leading to more frequent and severe extreme weather events, mass displacement, food and water insecurity, and increased conflict. The economic costs of climate change are already being felt around the world, from the increasing costs of disaster recovery to the loss of productivity due to extreme heat. These costs will continue to rise as the impacts of climate change intensify, putting a strain on national economies and global financial systems. Climate change also poses a significant threat to human health. Extreme heat can lead to heat stroke and other heat-related illnesses, while air pollution from wildfires and other sources can exacerbate respiratory problems. Climate change is also expected to increase the spread of infectious diseases, as warmer temperatures and changing precipitation patterns create more favorable conditions for disease vectors. The security implications of climate change are equally profound. As resources become scarcer and competition intensifies, the risk of conflict will increase. Climate change will act as a threat multiplier, exacerbating existing tensions and creating new ones. This will require a fundamental rethinking of security strategies and a shift towards a more cooperative approach to global governance. Section 8. A call for unity, climate finance, and the need for global cooperation. Addressing the global challenge of climate change requires a collective effort, with developed countries taking the lead in providing financial and technological assistance to developing countries. Climate finance is essential for enabling developing countries to mitigate their emissions, adapt to the impacts of climate change, and pursue sustainable development pathways. Developed countries have pledged to mobilize $100 billion per year by 2020 to support climate action in developing countries. However, this target has not yet been met, and the current level of climate finance falls far short of what is needed. Scaling up climate finance is crucial for building trust and fostering international cooperation on climate action. In addition to financial resources, developed countries must also provide technological assistance to developing countries. This includes sharing clean energy technologies, providing capacity-building support, and facilitating technology transfer. International collaborations in research and development is also essential for accelerating the deployment of climate solutions. Addressing climate change is not just a moral imperative, it is also in the self-interest of all countries. Climate change knows no borders, and its impacts will be felt globally. A collective response based on principles of equity and shared responsibility is essential for securing a sustainable and prosperous future for all. Section 9. A race we can't afford to lose towards a sustainable and secure future. The fight against climate change is a defining challenge of our time. It is a race against time, and it is a race we cannot afford to lose. The decisions we make today will determine the future of our planet and the well-being of generations to come. The transition to a low-carbon, climate-resilient future will require transformational changes in all sectors of society. We need to decarbonize our energy systems, transform our transportation networks, revolutionize our agricultural practices, and build more resilient cities and infrastructure. This transition will not be easy, but it is essential for securing a sustainable and prosperous future. It will require innovation, collaboration, and a shared commitment to action from governments, businesses, and individuals alike. The future is ours to create. By embracing the challenge of climate change, we can build a more just, equitable, and sustainable world for all. The time for action is now.